Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the second episode of Virtual Boer on where we discussing the Maize Triangle. Yesterday we did a brief geographical background to it, just where its location sort of sits in South Africa. So today we're going to revisit some of that information very briefly and just expand upon it. And we'll be discussing two separate topics and just look at a geographical impediment that sort of has held South Africa back in certain ways when it comes to transportation of what's happening in South Africa. So, yesterday we were speaking about rainfall patterns. I just touched on it very briefly, but I think what I'll firstly do is just bring up two windows here, so bear with me for a second. I'm sure you can see that one over there. So this is a color-coded annual rainfall amount experienced throughout South Africa. You can sort of see in the region that we're looking at, and I'll bring up our second one over here, just so that we can have a look at that side by side with it, that it makes a little bit more sense. You can get an idea that we mentioned it was 500 to 800 millimeters of rain. And now when comparing the one with the other, we can see that that's about right. We can't really move this map too much up. I can move that one down though. You'll see that we're speaking around that area over here. From Pretoria across to down here, that's 500 to 750 going into the green around Bapane, and that's our Maize Triangle over here. Now next, what to go along with this, while I've got this map up, I'm just going to close this one over here, is to discuss logistics in South Africa. Now, the logistics in South Africa have actually been very well thought out when they were planned upon their conception. We're not here to look at the history of all of that. We're just looking at the actual infrastructure. But this line that sort of divides our triangle into a eastern and a western half, this is the N1 highway, which is the main artery in South Africa when it comes to moving lots of goods along. That in our railway system, which moves still a significant proportion of goods along it. It's just at the moment not functioning so well. I thought I would do a separate video on just the railway system in South Africa. Otherwise, we're going to be here for a long time. Once I drew that research, I realized it will become a very long episode. So that's the first thing to notice. Although we have lots of rivers distributed throughout South Africa with many mountain ranges and an escarpment that is steep in nature, it creates some unique problems. Now, I don't know how many of you guys remember this from geography in high school, but this is actually a past test that I could get my hands on. And all it is a cross section from Port Nolloth to Durban. And your cross section, if you understand the geographical concept, shows you the sort of the way the land is laid out. Now, South Africa, climbing up from its coastal plains, they're very steep. So what that means is the rivers in those sections are generally not navigable by boat. This leads to the problem of not being able to move anything on any rivers in a meaningful sense. down to the coast for export, which is generally very good for business. And that is why our infrastructure had to be planned out so well, and it's one of the weaknesses in South Africa's geography. So, I hope you found that interesting. Now let's get back to the simulator. So, I'm still on the same day that I was yesterday. I've done absolutely nothing. I just prepared. I've still got all exactly the same stuff. What I am going to do now, quickly, is get my steel chainsaw out and test what's going to happen when I mow this tree down and see how many bunny huggers there from town come to get it. Now I need to cut these things as close to I can at the root, because I'm going to eventually remove them entirely, as this will become something for later. Timber! There we go. So let's put the tool away. There goes our first tree. Now the guys are going to drive past here and be like, there's some crazy man. And he's just chopping down a whole forest over here. Now I can tell you one thing, I will leave one or two of these trees because they look pretty and they provide shade to park a car under or something like that. But the majority of this land must be cleared because it's going to be repurposed for something to come in the future. We will see as the series progresses. But for now, I'm quite happy as things stand. I've got a heck of a lot of work here in front of me to get one of these trees chopped up into pieces that I can actually carry with my hands and put on the back of the hillbilly truck over there. It's not any type of easy work, I can tell you now. And there's no one to hire around here just to do that for me. All these guys who want to work over here, they just want to drive the fancy machinery and that type of thing, but they don't want to go digging in the ground or do the hard work. So that's all got to be done myself. But if you come a little bit prepared, and at some stage what I will do is upgrade my logging equipment so that this type of thing gets easier, and then I'll even cut these into planks and all sorts of different shapes and sell them so I can make even more profit. For now though, I'm just gonna clear them. Anyways, wish me luck on my missions, boys and girls, if you're there. And thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Virtual Boer. And the next one, we'll probably be putting some seeds in the ground. If we're not doing that, we're going to be looking for work at one of our neighbors to make some spare cash. Anyways, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.